Coming up on this exclusive edition of Booth Review, I'm Bram Weinstein with London Fletcher. We just watched the Commanders practice against the Jets. What stood out to you?
Well, obviously I wanted to watch the quarterback, Jaden Daniels, and he made some plays. Also, my man, De'Ami Brown, he was out there looking good. And the defense, I love those guys. Defensive front, they were in the backfield of the New York Jets making some plays. I love watching what I saw in practice.
Yeah, you worried about that pass rush? You saw it today in a first go against somebody. It's something we're going to talk about today on Booth Review. Welcome into this exclusive preview edition of Booth Review. I'm Bram Weinstein, play-by-play voice of the Commanders, with the legendary linebacker London Fletcher, who joins me in the booth for all of the games. We'll be joined by Logan Paulson this year, but this year, London, you and I are going to be doing a podcast together.
Yes.
We're doing it today off of the joint practice with the Jets.
Yep.
So it's our little warm-up. This is our preseason for the regular season of doing a podcast together, because we're going to be doing one every Monday after every game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, just to be able to kind of review the game, talk about what we see from our vantage point in the booth. It's exciting, man. The whole podcast epidemic, so to speak. I'm looking forward to doing this with you. I know we're going to have a lot of fun.
It's going to be fun. August 26th is we're going to debut the first official one, which will be after the last preseason game. So we'll be heading into cuts. We'll have seen all of the preseason, but we wanted to do a special preview one because we're up in New York with the team. We just got to go see the joint practice today against the Jets. Unfortunately, the weather was awful. It was pouring the first hour of it, and then it drizzled throughout the rest of it. That led to the Jets not even putting Aaron Rodgers out there, so we didn't get to see Aaron Rodgers against the defense. Let me just get your general takeaway of what kind of stood out to you today.
Yeah, first thing you mentioned, the weather, and with it being a consistent rain throughout the practice, at times pouring rain, I thought ball security was great. All things considered, I didn't see a lot of balls on the ground, a lot of fumbles or drop passes and things like that. Center QB exchange. Those are things that you concern yourself with anytime you have weather issues. So from that standpoint, I thought both teams handled that well.
Just give me your general sense of Jaden Daniels. What did you see today, and what was the first time he's been up against another opponent?
Well, just looking at the way they started out the practice, they started that period off with like a 7-on-7 period, and they were going against a lot of man-to-man coverage against the New York Jets. And Jaden, I thought, was on time and on target with a lot of the passes. He had a beautiful deep ball throw down the sideline to De'Ami Brown, and De'Ami made a one-handed catch. The ball accuracy, the ball placement, where you wanted it to be. I thought him and first pass was to Zach Ertz. Nice pass. Zach has been a great target for Jaden. You can see him being like a quarterback's best friend. Him and his knowledge of this offense is starting to shine and show out. So I was impressed with the way Jaden performed, especially in that let's call it 7-on-7 period where there's no pass rush, things like that, where you're truly just working on your chemistry and your timing with the receivers.
When it got into 11-on-11, at least early from what I saw, and I saw, honestly, they were on separate fields. So I actually saw more of the first-team defense than I did of the first-team offense. But from what I did see from Daniels and from what I kind of heard and gleaned from everyone else who was paying attention, the offense collectively as a whole had a hard time moving the ball here early. Again, that goes back to, I think, the offensive line is shuffling things around. This is all new. And we had an opportunity to talk to Cliff Kingsbury, a few days ago, and he is openly saying, we're not going to show anything that we're doing. And I think that's part of this here. So I wonder how you view that, knowing they don't want to show anybody what they want to be a secret. I don't blame them. No one knows what their formations are going to be. No one knows what kind of offense they're going to run.
But you saw, and I don't want to say too much, because I did see a couple things where you can tell, okay, this is something that they're saving for Tampa Bay week 1 that, I saw that we hadn't seen out in Ashburn, especially with the fans being out there. So there were some wrinkles that they did offensively that you could say, okay, I really like this aspect. Now, I don't want to share too much on the podcast. You and I could talk off air. But when you look at it, it's really about just being able to compete against another team, compete and making sure, is he making the right decision? And not just him, but the quarterback in general. Are they making the right decision? Does the pass pro, are they making the right calls? I saw Tyler Biotis, making the right calls from a protection standpoint. You want to see those guys making sure they're operating in the right manner and doing the things that they need to do. And they know the offensive line is what it is in terms of injuries right now. So I think from that standpoint, they're happy with that aspect of it.
These practices feel, and most of the players and coaches seem to say it these days, the way the preseason is treated, more important. It's a better learning environment. There's more corrections to be made out of it.
You want to have mistakes happen in practice or corrections happen in practice as opposed to a game. A great coach, Hall of Fame coach that I played for, Dick LeBeau. A lot of times when you're in these practices, especially if you're on defense and you give up a play or something happens, and everybody, all the coaches are in the uproar and things like that. Coach LeBeau was like, man, I'd much rather have those things happen right now and let's get them corrected than happen on Sunday or during a real game. And I'm sure, you're not happy when they happen on the practice field at that moment, but it's an opportunity to coach, correct, and not just correct the guys who, may have had the situation and made a mistake on the field, but you're also coaching their backups and other guys as well. So things that happen, you're happy when you're able to have those mistakes happen and correct them up, coach them up.
And I know that everybody was paying attention to Jaden, obviously, because they wanted to see him first go against an opponent. But we had talked to Kingsbury a couple days earlier, and he had pointed out to us he really actually wanted to focus on the run game. He wanted to see it specifically against, I think, this defensive front, because I wanted to see how they would handle against something like this. I don't know if you got anything out of the practice there, because I know it was important to the team to see how the run game was functioning as they head towards the regular season.
Yeah, it's still a work in progress. The run game. I thought, Austin Eckler, he popped a couple times, and B-Rob showed his toughness, broke tackles, even though they weren't tackling, but there were some times where, the defender may have been there and tried to thud him up. Knowing B-Rob, he was breaking those tackles. So you like to see the physicality of the running backs and those things like that. Anytime you're working with an offensive line that hasn't had a lot of time together, you're going to have some mishaps that take place.
Yeah. It's interesting with the two of them. I didn't see B-Rob and Eckler. I didn't see a lot of them today, but how they're going to be utilized together is going to be very interesting. How they utilize their formations will be very interesting. And I'm with you on Eckler, actually. I don't know if I saw a ton of it today, and it was wet and it was sloppy outside today, but he looks as quick as he's been in the past. We've seen, now that they've started to ramp up to more of a game speed. And I still and I'm going to ask you about this in a minute, because I haven't seen game speed yet since the start of camp, and I didn't see it again today. But when it gets up to a certain point, you're starting to see the Eckler, that quick, twitchy cuts that kind of made him what he was with the Chargers. You're seeing that here now, which I think is a good sign for them.
You mentioned, wanting to see game speed or not seeing it yet. You can tell that the coaches really emphasize, hey, we don't want to have a bunch of fisticuffs and fights, and we don't want the intensity so high that we're not able to accomplish what we want to accomplish. But there was some physicality that took place at the line of scrimmages and things like that. And I saw guys running to the football. So, that's what you want to see definitely on the defensive side of the ball. You mentioned Eckler. There were some times where he's stronger than what he looks. And we've seen videos of him in the weight room. He's not a big guy, but he breaks a lot of tackles because he's stronger than what he appears to be. They're going to utilize him and B-Rob in a variety of different ways. Both of them obviously can run the ball out of the backfield, but also being able to catch the ball and being able to do some things in that manner. I'm looking forward to seeing how this offense operates.
Yeah, so am I. The other couple of guys that really just stood out to me through camp and to this point, they went and drafted Luke McCaffrey, but Olamide Zaccheaus has really stood out here as someone who has really emerged, I think, into camp to the point where forget just making the team, he may have a prominent role. If you were watching closely, and today he was featured in the offense today as well. So I think he's a name to watch here. He's a vet. I'm not surprised considering depth at the position group. I'm not surprised that he's an easy add to the 53, but I think he might be a bigger role play. If I'm guessing right now, by the time we get around to the regular season, he's got a bigger role in this team than I think people might have thought when they first brought him in here.
Well, he continues to show up and continues to make plays, and you want that to happen. When he was signed as a free agent back in April, it was kind of the under the radar signing. Only had 10 catches a season ago in Philly, so you're like, okay, it's not that big of a signing. But then you continue to watch the practices, and he's the one who continues to show up, continues to make plays. I'm not the biggest guy, but he makes plays, and he's making the most of his opportunities as well. There was a couple other guys. The tight ends, I thought the tight ends looked really good.
Yeah.
Saw Ben Sinnott make some plays.
Yeah.
I mentioned Zach Ertz making some plays as well. So I thought the tight ends, our other tight end, the big
Turner?
No, not Bates. John Bates.
Yes.
He made some plays as well. And there was this one time he caught a pass, and the defender safety was looking to come up and thud him, and next thing you know, it was like he was a speed bump.
Yeah.
Bates ran him over, man. It was pretty
Bates
pretty
is
nice.
an offensive lineman in a tight end's body. That's what they love about him. And Zacchaeus seems to bring the attitude that they're looking for. This coaching staff is looking for I want the ball, it's mine.
Yep.
And on defense, they want the guys uber confident, go get the ball, turn it over, play really fast, which is when I'll get into the defense and the practice in a minute, but I want to stay on that thought for a minute with you, which is they keep talking about Dan Quinn, Joe Witt, this is what we're about.
Yeah.
Your friends and family going to watch us. You're going to like what you see. We're going to play with a lot of intensity. We're going to bring it, like those type of things. And the other day, like to the point about they haven't shown game speed yet, we haven't seen it yet. We've not seen it yet. And it's not to suggest that like they're not doing it. It's purposefully, they're not going at the speed and intensity that they intend to have at some point, which is going to have to obviously change on Saturday when they play a game.
I'll say this, and I don't know if you're just talking, you may be talking mainly intensity within the trenches.
Yeah.
Like offensive linemen, receivers, cornerbacks, like their game speed, because you have to run full speed routes. You have to run at the cover guys at the game speed. There's no like, all right, we're going to be 80%. You need to run these routes full speed. So along the perimeters, that's full speed, that's game speed. There's not going to be all of a sudden we turn it on once we get into preseason games or the regular season. Finishing plays may not be at the level that they will be at once finishing plays from an offensive line standpoint, depleting somebody, really, pancaking somebody in the whether it's in a run block or perimeter play, screens and things like that. They're not doing those things yet. Not in the practice setting. You just don't want to do those things, but you want to make sure you're in the right position first and foremost. And then once the games really ramp up, you'll see those guys being finished.
Witt the other day in the press conference said, we're living that mantra. This can't be BS.
Yeah.
Like it has to be that. And so I've been waiting to see, because listen, I've been around a long time. I'm covered you as a player, covered player in
that is a long time ago, man.
I played, teams before you were even in Washington. This is not what training camp was. It's just a different time.
It's a different time. That's just the way it is. And even within that, I think coaches have certain ways that they want to go about getting their teams ready to play. Where you're going to have some coaches, they're going to have full pads every day.
Yeah.
As much as they possibly can. And then you're going to have some coaches who may take an approach where, hey, we're going to be full pads this day, maybe in shorts the next day, back in full pads, things like that.
It felt like back in the day, it was like, let's see who can survive.
There was a survival mentality, and it's
not that.
We just got to embrace it, Bram. The times have changed, man.
It has.
Times have changed.
Well, the Jets, I'm not suggesting they're the only ones doing this. The Jets were holding up too. I mean, it wasn't like there was a lot of physical. There were no fights today. There was no reason to have any today. No. It wasn't like anybody was taking any cheap shots. So the message got across on both sides today.
Right. There was there were a couple shots that were taken where I thought this could lead to a kind of a fisticuff, and it didn't happen, didn't take place. So guys were conscious of the message that was delivered to them from their head coach. I know Coach Quinn obviously let his players know, hey, we don't want those things, and I'm sure Robert Saleh did the same thing with his players. But there were some times where I saw a couple hits, and I was like, I'm waiting on this to be, something escalate to something a little bit more than that, and it didn't happen.
All right, let's talk about the defense a little bit. I actually saw more of that in the joint practice than I did of the offense today. If you see some clips on like Twitter from early in practice, you'll hear all these oohs and ahs and Jets scoring and all that stuff. I want to go back to what we were just talking about. People were holding up there was no full tackling or anything like that, and there were plenty of times where guys would have been teed up, but weren't and allowed to keep running, and the fans might have been confused about what they were watching. Still,
or a quarterback may have gotten sacked, and you just you never know.
The big takeaway, actually, I thought was a really good first sign. One of the big questions about this team is, are they going to be able to generate a consistent pass rush?
Yeah.
And in a first go today, they did, actually. In my viewpoint of what I saw from the sideline, Dorrance Armstrong had a couple good rushes. I think Frankie Louvu is a very interesting, movable part for this team. Again, probably someone Joe Wood doesn't really want to show what they're going to do with him. He was in the backfield a couple of times. I think you're going to have your moments with Dante Fowler for sure. I think you're going to have your moments with Cleveland Farrell. I think they're hoping Jamin Davis is going to be somebody they can count on there. But I saw some of it today.
Right.
So with the offensive line juggling, and we're worried, and the corners I'll get to in a minute, on that question of can they generate a consistent pass rush, in the first real test of it, which is just a practice, it was actually pretty good.
Well, I think that the question was, will we be able to generate a pass rush from the edges?
Correct.
Because we know we have an interior. We have, Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, two of the best interior pass rushers in the NFL. And then you add Johnny Newton to that mix, one of the most disruptive players in college football from the interior. So that pressure will be there. The edges, are we going to be able to have pressure out there? So I'm happy to hear that report from you about what those guys were able to do in that practice against the Jets, being able to get some pressure off the edges. You mentioned Dorrance Armstrong. You mentioned Dante Fowler. Yeah, those guys being able to.
Farrell had a couple nice rushes.
So that's music to my ears.
Yeah,
because you want to be able to do it with four and not have to, blitz the quarterback, not have to bring a fifth rusher, things like that. So if you can do it with four and just have that seven concentrate on coverage, that's great.
I came into this feeling like Armstrong's going to be steady. I don't know if he's going to give them huge numbers, but he's going to be steady. I think you know what you get. We've seen him. We've gone up against him for a number of years, and obviously he knows this defense. It's that other side where is the question. Farrell's a very good player. Fowler situationally has been very, very good.
Still has some juice, yeah.
Do you have this consistency at that other side? And at least for day one, they found a way to kind of work around it.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple of scouts about, just some of those guys, and they love how hard Armstrong plays. It's like he's gonna make plays just because of how hard he plays, and Fowler still has juice coming off that edge. And a situational player, as you mentioned, he's not going to be a every down player. But when you get in third and obvious passing situations, and you're able to bring him in and let him, work a tackle and do those types of things, I want to see what he's able to do. And those guys will benefit also from the interior pass rush.
Yes, I think so. With Fowler, I didn't see anything specific from him today, but there's a hope that it'll be there. And with Jamin, there's a hope that they're going to find some situational plays for him on third down where he's going to be hopefully effective for them. All right, let me get to the corners. We had our first official depth chart come out.
Yeah. When you see that, it's like, okay, all right, well, this is a competition. Forbes, you got to build him back up. After last season and what he went through, it was just a situation where you have to restore his confidence. Let him understand, hey, you are that guy that we drafted number one, and you have traits and skills, and there's a reason why you were so successful at playing in the SEC. There was a sequence, and I'm sure you remember this, when they were working, I think it was move the ball or 2-minute drill, whatever, where they threw, seemed like 4 out of the first 6 plays end up going to his side, and He stood up and he made some plays, made some pass deflections, and
Yeah.
and he was sticky in coverage. And you love to see that for a guy trying to regain his confidence.
Yeah. I think that's going to be key for him.
Yeah.
I mean, you played, so maybe you know. I'm sure you played with guys whose confidence were shaken at some point in time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had my confidence shaken a time or two. Not often, but a time or two.
At that position and the receiver position, you got to have the confidence.
You got to have athletic arrogance.
Yes,
It's because, especially, I think cornerback is the position. I think it requires the most confidence. Because
I dare
of
you
what
to throw it at me.
Because of what
Yes.
you're required to do. You're oftentimes covering the best athlete on the football field with mano a mano, no help a lot of times, and you against me. So you have to feel like you're not gonna beat me. I'm gonna be here, and if you do beat me, it wasn't something you did; it was something I did wrong. That's kind of how you have to have the mentality you have to have at the cornerback position.
Yeah, I think this weekend, next week's practice with the Dolphins, next week's game against the Dolphins is the huge part of the summer for Emmanuel Forbes. I think he needs to show them and prove to them that he can be trusted to be out there prominently.
Right.
There's no danger of him not being here or anything like that, but prominently playing. I think he needs to prove that. But next week, Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. It's going to be a heck of a test for the Commanders.
It will, and again, this is an opportunity for, and not just Forbes, and because all those guys have, something to. It's an opportunity to get better, to compete at a high level. Whether you're Benjamin St. Jude, Michael Davis, Emmanuel Forbes, Mikey Samerstill, even though he's a rookie. So these are opportunities. Every time your cleats touch the grass, is an opportunity for you to compete and get better.
And I'll say this too. Michael Davis came here to play for these coaches because he believes that they can elevate his game. And if he becomes the guy who has the 6 to 8 interception season that commonly has occurred under Dan Quinn and Joe Witt, he knows what that means on the other side. So he is here and motivated in the middle of his career to hopefully be elevated. So he's motivated to win the job. And then the guy I love that I think is very under the radar is Igbenogany, who's a former first round.
You've been on him a lot.
He's a former first round pick. He's bounced around a little bit, so he's a high level athlete though. He's a former first round pick. This is his second year with those guys. He was in Dallas last year.
Yeah.
He pops in here with an opportunity. They've already they're giving him kick return roles. I think you're going to see a lot of him on the field. So I don't know, because I know people are worried about the corners, and I am too. I don't know that they're weak. I think the depth may end up surpassing the players who are currently in front if they don't win their jobs back. And that's why it's on Forbes and St. Juice to hold these guys back if they want to be on the field.
Yeah, it absolutely. Coaching though too, man. The coaching matters, and I've been so impressed with these coaches and the practices that I've been able to attend. You've gone to basically every practice. I believe. Yeah, you've gone to all of the practices. Yeah, you've gone to all practices. Yeah. I've been able to see maybe 4 practices, I believe, but the 4 that I've seen, the amount of the attention to detail, the coaching, and just the coaching in individuals pre-snap, and then also on the sideline after plays happen, the details in the coaching that they're getting, I've been extremely impressed. Guy I wanted to mention, Jeremy Chin.
Yeah.
There was a play that you probably remember. He caught there was a ball, a tight end was catching over across the middle, and it was in a real game. They probably would still be picking him up off the ground, man. I mean, the ball, it was a bang-bang play. And Chin, he held up a little bit. I actually thought he was going to intercept the ball. He ended up, tight end caught it, but he would have been decapitated.
Listen, they did a great job in Dallas with Quinn and Witt with Jaron Curse.
Yeah.
That's the position Chin's going to play here.
Oh, yeah.
But he's bigger player at that position.
Yeah.
And if this goes well, this will not be a one-year relationship.
And not only is it a bigger player, he has a more instinctive mentality in terms of stopping a run. So just he's comfortable being in that box and being kind of a hybrid linebacker.
I know you love him because he wants to hit people.
Oh, listen,
you can see it on him.
I love anybody who likes to. Speaking of hitting
Him
people,
and Quan like to hit people.
Frankie Louisville.
Yeah,
you talking about wanting to hit people. There was a run play that a little inside zone play, and the lineman is trying to move Frankie Louisville, and Louisville is just throwing him out of the way, and he's wrapping up the ball carrier, and he's just like he walks him back about three yards. He's just like I was like, oh yeah, I love this.
All right, while we have a few minutes, let's talk about the game that's happening this weekend.
There is a game happening this weekend.
There is a game happening this weekend. Most of the starters got a lot of the reps. That was promised by Dan Quinn in the practice, which is going to flip in the game. So you're going to see Jaden Daniels, you're going to see Marcus Mariota, but probably for a series or two. That's probably it. And then they're going to turn it over to some of the younger guys. So who are the younger guys you're thinking about that could make a name for themselves this weekend? Because they're going to get real opportunities here.
Yeah, they definitely will get real opportunities. You just sticking to the offensive side of the ball, thinking about Luke McCaffrey. He's gonna be out there a lot. I imagine him being out there. Ben Sennett's gonna be out there, kind of showing what he can do. Flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, man. Some of the young safeties, Hampton. There was Owens.
Owens
Owens
has really stood out. He's an undrafted rookie, but looks like Chin actually. He's rangy. He's very tall, rangy, fast, and he has really, really stood out. The coaches have talked about him a lot, so he could be one of the surprises this year that emerges.
A Bryson Tremaine.
Yes,
he's gonna make a play, and then it was a tight end, and I had my. Who made a great play. Yankoff, yes. Yeah. He made an impressive
now
catch.
That Armani Rogers isn't here anymore, there's a chance for him.
Right, because he had a jersey switch. Yankoff made an outstanding play. I don't know if you saw it because this was during the time that defense was on one field and offense. So I don't know if you were looking, but they lined him up outside and he beat he was a safety on a go ball. Oh man.
Yeah.
Perfect throw, but the catch over the shoulder, showed great skills, and the way his teammates reacted and running and jumping up, congratulating him. Just a great catch by him. He popped for me.
Yeah, I think the receivers over the next couple of weeks is a spot that I'm watching really closely here because look, Terry, Jahan, Zacchaeus, McCaffrey is a high draft pick. That's 4. They're making the team, so that leaves you 1 to 2 spots, probably 2. Right. Tremaine, who you mentioned, who's made a ton of highlight-worthy plays in practice. Mitchell Tinsley, who is very twitchy, good young receiver. And then you got 2 veterans, Jamison Crowder, who right now leader in the clubhouse to be the primary punt returner, Byron Pringle, who they brought back, who's a dog, plays hard. Well,
and not only he can cover kicks too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Of those 4, only 2 are going to make the team. So this is a very interesting week for veterans and 2 younger players to try to impress everybody. I didn't even name De'Ami Brown yet, and you'd think at this point he's going to make the team.
De'Ami popped a couple times today.
Yeah.
He popped.
They've talked about him too, so there's a heavy competition at the bottom of the wide receiver position group.
Yeah, very heavy. Looking at defense and going back, and as we're talking, I'm thinking about guys that kind of are under the radar. Pittman.
Yeah,
linebacker. He's made some plays, having a really good camp. I'm sure they're excited to see him when the lights turn on. How's he performing?
He's a vet. He's a pro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A guy. Who else popped for me? Walker.
Yeah.
Michael Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
another vet.
Yeah, he's done some good things as well. So then you got the young pup, Jordan McGee, 5th round draft pick. I mean, physical specimen. You look at him, you're like, okay. So seeing what he looks like when the lights come on.
All right, last thing. Jaden makes his debut.
Yeah.
I don't believe he's going to play very much, but what do you want to see from him over the next week for the Jets and the Dolphins?
Well, just first and foremost, in terms of for a rookie, especially a quarterback, you want to see him kind of go through his routine, figure out what he wants to do from a pregame routine, getting himself ready to play a regular season game. So, kind of figuring out his routine. being decisive with the football, making great decisions. We don't know how much we'll see him in this ball game. So just during the time that he's on the football field, making sure he's making the right decision with the football.
All right. Booth Review will officially debut on August 26th. This was our exclusive preview version of it. You'll be able to see it on the Commanders YouTube or wherever you get all of your podcasts. Maybe we'll let Logan pop by every once in a while.
We might.
We'll let him pop by. I'm excited to get the season going. I'm excited to do this podcast with you.
We're going to have a lot of fun.
We are. All right, everybody. Enjoy the game against the Jets. We'll talk to you soon.